Welcome to another edition of Rob's Whiskey Wednesday. Thanks so much for joining us. And today we are showcasing another wonderful Colorado spirit. And oftentimes I get asked, Rob, it seems you're very biased to Colorado. And to them I say, yeah, duh. No, I'm a Denver native. This place is amazing. Everyone should be here and everyone should love our whiskey. And so, yeah, of course I'm biased to Denver. And if you've ever lived in Denver or been here and you've been at the top of a mountain with some great bottles like this one, you too would be biased. I'm just saying. Anyway, so let's get into this. I was sitting having a wonderful catch up with my good friend Zach, who runs Lions Project. If you're not familiar, go check it out. They're a fantastic charity. And he actually suggested this place. I hadn't been there in years. I took a date there once and the date didn't go as planned. And so maybe I equated the date to the venue. Regardless, I had just not been there since. And so I ordered their flight. I chatted with the hostess and the waitress and everybody else who talked to me about whiskey. And even though their website doesn't give a lot about the background, I was able to hear how they kind of got started. So like a lot of distillers, they couldn't start with any of the darker spirits, right? Because those have to be aged in barrels. So they started with gin and vodka. And I'm not the biggest fan of gin. Vodka's okay. It belongs in vodka cranberries, in my opinion. But once it kind of gets outside of that, I think it's out of its element. And then they jumped into the other more mature spirits. And I think as their length of time in business grows, they've been bottling things and they're bringing it out. Some of the cooler things about them are they're really into the Denver community. First of all, they're in one of the coolest Denver areas, the Denver Lowlands, or Low-High, as most people think about it. For those of you old schoolers like me, it's always going to be Northwest. But they're located right in Primo section of town, and they have a little shop there where you can have food, you can do little tastings, you can go into the back. But they do really cool things. Like I was reading an article a while back in the Westward, how there was a museum or an art exhibit with a bunch of honey. And they took, after that honey was on display, they took, I think it was like 190 gallons. Then they took that back and they created spirits and cocktails and such from that. So, you know, it's really Denver-based people helping Denver-based people. And I am all about that. I think that's fantastic. So here's one of their bourbons. I actually wasn't able, they were out when I was tasting it. So when I saw it over at Argonaut, well, on my Pappy Van Winkle ticket hunt, they had a Argonaut-selected bottle, and I was like, done, that one's an easy choice, I'm all in. So I went and grabbed the Jones Straight Bourbon. I haven't had the chance to have this one, so I'm really excited about it. So let's give it a go. You know, I like their bottles too, just really clean. All of their different brands, whether it's whiskey, bourbon, gin, vodka, etc., they do this really cool hand art. Some of it is tattoos, some of it has grains. This one has a fire or a little candle. Just really kind of neat, and I think bottle art, like the art of the spirits, it's really starting to become a part of the brand just as much as anything else. So you can tell it doesn't have a high proof, but it hits you really, really well. This one's labeled as bottled for 2 years. So for those of you who are new to bourbon, that's like the minimum age to be able to call it bourbon. And so this is a really, really, really young bourbon. And as such, it comes at you harsh and strong. Think of it like it comes at you like a 2-year-old, right? It's aggressive, it's noisy, it's excited to be alive, it's not sure who it is yet. It's kind of most 2-year-old bourbons, and this one's on point. To me, it does have that typical, you know, orange sweetness, a little bit of nectar. But for me, I'm getting a little cashew, maybe hazelnut. No, cashew. You know, it kind of finishes off dark chocolatey. Maybe like old tobacco, like how you think that would smell and taste, not in a bad way. Yeah, I think, and I'm gonna go back to the hazelnut. I think it has a taste of hazel, nut, kind of like that kind of feeling. And then I definitely get some cashews, even though that's not listed as a flavor profile. So I'm really like, I think this bourbon is gonna open up as more like a 6-year or an 8-year. I think it's gonna be a really, really interesting flavor then. But anyway, still really good. I think this would be great in like an old fashioned. Like this is definitely one of your great cocktail mixers. You know, this with its interesting flavor and its little bite in an old fashioned, I think will kind of ease out the syrupy sweetness of an old fashioned into a really, really cool drink. So anyway, hope you enjoyed the family Jones, and excuse me, Eliza Jones here. Go visit them. They're on Osage Street, right here in town. And I hope you enjoyed this week's version of Whiskey Wednesdays.